Hello, and welcome to the 4th episode of StarFox Dark, a D&D game. I'm your host, DWL52. I want to start this video off by apologizing for the odd frequencies of my posts. My work schedule has picked up significantly, and I've been finding less and less time to record, but I want to assure you that I am still working on these videos. So, in the last video, we left off with my group coming into the graveyard area and looking for a place to land. But before we get back into the game, I'd like to give the background for the character Lilly Foe. Born on the planet of Fortuna to Lucy and Mark Foe, her young life was spent relaxing and having fun on the tropical planet. Her father Mark was a Surian who used his powers in a court of law as a lawyer to determine if someone was lying or not, kind of Daredevil style. Her mother was a free spirit artist that would sell her art for a lot of money. Lilly and her rich parents would spend the 6 months of the hurricane season of Fortuna on the planet of Cornarian, where her father practiced law. When Lilly's psionics started to develop, her parents realized how strong she would be and decided to build a fortified house on Fortuna, away from the tourist area where she can reside year-round. Only a few trusted servants were allowed to stay with Lilly to help raise her while her parents were away. Unfortunately, one of the new girls was not as trustworthy as she seemed. The new maid, Rebecca, had heard rumors of a psyker that she could bring back to her bosses on the planet of Gobi. One night, she chloroformed Lilac, put her into an anesthesia tube meant for transporting critically injured people, and shipped her off in a personal shuttle, then delivered her to a science lab on Gobi to be experimented on. She had been there for 3 months before Jax broke into her isolated lab and freed her. On the way to find a way off-planet, they both broke into a experimental weapons lab and stole their unique weapons. She chose the Warhammer, since it looked like the same weapon her favorite video game character used. It wasn't until a bit later that she discovered its multi-form ability. Form 1 was the basic Warhammer. Form 2 was a grenade launcher. And Form 3 was a storage/carry mode. After stealing a shuttle from one of the planet's owners, they evaded the planet's defensive battle moon and left. After escaping Gobi, Lilly and Jax returned to Fortuna and reunited with Lucy and Mark. During the time that they were reunited, Mark hired Jax to be a bodyguard for Lilly, and to bring him the head of Rebecca without ruining Lilac's innocence that she somehow managed to maintain during the kidnapping. Since then, she has been traveling with Jax. Since their travels began, Lilac has stayed by Jax and has been the diplomatic, easy-to-talk-to person in their team. Because of Jax's programming, they have been off doing random jobs that usually revolves around finding people and bringing them back in little boxes that she has no idea how Jax managed to cram them into, or making them fall asleep and then bringing them back in really tight black bags. One time she remembered the job was to send a red firework right into this bad guy's face. She doesn't know why. She and Jax eventually got a call that would send them down a path to a big payday and land them right here in this briefing room. So that was Lilac's backstory. Anyways, so back to the game. Something I forgot to mention in the previous video, the group had decided to bring along some military drones to help create a perimeter around the park. So they had brought 8 to be exact. Now, when it comes to the combat drones, they look like the drones from the movie Oblivion, kind of sphere-shaped, that open their sides up to reveal guns. Now, there are 4 different sizes. There's a small handheld, which is usually around 8 inches in diameter. There is a fighter size, which is around 4 feet in diameter. A small ship size, which is 16 feet in diameter. And then the largest is the capital ship drone, which can be up to 50 feet in diameter. The group eventually finds a large enough field to land the non-armed combat shuttle. Once on the ground, the group ends up leaving the 2 soldiers that they had brought along behind to guard the shuttle, while the rest of the group and Farah heads towards the memorial. We start to approach the tree line, and Newts runs out in front of us acting as a scout. Jax, who is trained in warfare, decides to do the same, but fails his stealth checks, so he ends up hanging back instead. Once in the tree line, Newts reveals that he has this hockey puck-sized stealth drone that Wi-Fi connects to a data pad on his wrist. It basically allows him to scout out an area with the drone while he remains hidden. This drone flies around using a micro-G diffuser, which basically means it's weightless. So he sends the drone off while the rest of us catch up. The player rolls perception and rolls low, and he only detects one enemy scout running around. There may be more. The group decides to try and capture this scout if possible, and to question him for information. Newts and Jax decide to try and flank this guy, but he heard one of us and started firing with a sniper rifle. Jax got hit, but nothing serious. And then Newts shot at him to disarm or to knock him down, but his dice rolled a little too high and killed him instead. Like almost every group I've been a part of, we immediately raid the body. Guy had a sniper rifle and some basic combat armor. And right as the group is walking away, the mole kneels down next to the body, opens up his briefcase that he's been carrying along this whole time, and reveals it to be a miniature portable lab, complete with power cord battery, data pads, syringes, and a whole lot of medical tools. It's basically a Swiss Army science lab. Anyways, the mole takes a scalpel and opens the scout's chest. Now, I can't remember the species of the scout, but I think he was a rodent of some kind. Anyways, the mole opens its chest and proceeds to cut out its liver. He then takes the liver and places it into a blender and hits frappe. Now, our group is all like, WTF, we are so not taking you with us if you are doing what we think you're going to do. Thankfully, he did not drink it, but instead took out a syringe and sucks it up, claiming that he'll be using the DNA in a lab test later on. The player explains that he based his character off of a biomancer and is working with biological reorganization and construction. He is basically playing as Shaw Tucker from Full Metal Alchemist, and he needs to get DNA samples from every species he can, which immediately puts most of our group on the defensive since he just threatened everyone but Jax. We end up talking to him and convincing him that he does not need to take the liver or brain or heart from all these races, but a simple donation of blood will work just as well, and he finally agrees to not try and steal the organs. This idea ended up with him and a couple players designing him a syringe rifle further into the game. So after Monty packs up his briefcase, the group heads off again and gets closer to the memorial site. After about 20 minutes in-game of walking to it, we finally reach the memorial, and it is a mess. There is debris everywhere, ship parts that are taller than a man strewn all around the area. It looks more like a junkyard than a memorial. We spend a few minutes looking around the area before we eventually come around a large stack of trash and see 3 more scouts patrolling through the memorial. Immediately, Jax bolts for them, throwing his scythe, which was in assault rifle mode, at Lilly and taking her hammer. He intended on getting close to them while protecting her from afar. Before he can get there, Newts rolls a critical and shoots one in the face, killing him instantly. Chocolate hits the second, doing a fair amount of damage. Lilly gets a good shot at the second and damn near killing him. And Monty, using his pistol, finishes off, leaving the third for Jax. However, we had all agreed to keep one alive to force them into showing us what was going on here. So the big murder bot does not get a kill. Instead, he runs up and rolls an intimidation check and epically succeeds. The scout drops his gun and begins begging for his life. Jax then pulls out a set of magnetic handcuffs and detains the new prisoner. This one and the 2 dead ones are lizard folk, some kind of gecko. Jax starts to question the lizard to get information out of him when guess who shows up? If you guessed the psychotic mole, you're right. So while Jax is asking this guy questions, the mole comes up right next to where they're standing and starts to dissect the other lizard guy, not 5 feet from them. Needless to say, this damn near put the lizard into a comatose-like state as he goes into shock at seeing this. And then he refuses to give out any information because he believes he will be killed and dissected like his soldier companions. Jax ends up dragging the guy back into the forest and taking him away from the rest of the group. Once the lizard is sure he won't die and that the mole doesn't know where he is at, he spills all the information. Apparently, he is a part of an advanced scouting party. They were tasked with setting up a hidden surveillance base here. He tells Jax about how to get into the base before Jax gags the lizard and leaves him hanging by his wrists from a tree, promising to come back and bring him to a jail rather than just kill him. Jax then leads the group over to a section of wreckage near the Albatross. There, he moves a piece of sheet metal to the side and reveals a numerical keypad. He punches in the correct code, and a little ways down, the side of the ship opens to reveal a hidden access point. Jax and Deeze take point going down into the base. The access point opened onto a long hallway that descends underground. Lilly and Chocolate come next, leaving Monty to bring up the rear. The group proceeds down this hallway until it opens into a large room. Cautiously, they spread out from the entryway to have a look around and make sure they are not alone. The room appears to be an old maintenance bay. Busted computers, spare parts, and various tools thrown all over the place. Lilly goes looking through a cabinet on the other side of the room from the entrance and finds a large box filled with grenades. We rolled it out later and turns out she found something like 50 grenades of various types. We decided to take about 4 each and leave the rest. We would grab them on the way out. Seconds after the group gets the grenades, a door on the far right side opens and 4 combat drones come flying out. Thankfully, the drones that are coming for us are the little 8-inch Cornarian Defense Force ones. I say thankfully, but they are some tough little jerks. Deeze makes a bolt for a small wall to hide behind. Lilly leaps behind a computer desk. Monty ends up kneeling behind a large steel drum. Chocolate and Jax are too big to be able to hide effectively, so they open fire. Jax with his assault rifle and Moose with his shotgun. So Jax and Moose open fire on these drones. Basically, what our idea was we're in an enemy base. These are combat drones that are supposed to be with us, but since they're flying around an enemy base, they are clearly have been hacked into and taken over. Round 1. Jax and Moose both open fire, dealing a little bit of damage to 2 drones. Lilly, Deeze, Monty, and Farah all ready their weapons and get behind cover. The drones use this opportunity to shoot at Jax and Chocolate, dealing some damage but mainly grazing. Round 2. Jax and Chocolate shoot again, this time concentrating fire on the furthest left drone. Jax's shot hits its G-diffuser and it falls to the ground. Right before it hits, Chocolate's shotgun blows it to pieces. Lilly, Monty, Farah, and Deeze all open fire from cover and do a little bit of damage to the remaining 3. The drones zero in and focus fire on Jax. He takes a significant amount of damage, but not nearly enough to bring him down. They did like 10 points of damage to him, but his health is over 100. Round 3. All group members fire their weapons successfully. Jax does some damage. Chocolate finishes off a second one. Monty manages to knock the 3rd drone down, as Lilly uses her grenade launcher to obliterate the 4th. Farah manages to get a couple good hits into the 3rd one as it hits the ground, but it does not kill it. The drones all fire back, but are being taken out so they have crap accuracy. Round 4. The last surviving drone had its G-diffuser knocked out in the last round and is now rolling around on the floor, randomly shooting its gun. However, it ends up rolling right over the lip of a vertical ladder shaft that leads further underground. Taking no chances, Deeze throws a grenade in after it. 3 seconds later, the shaft explodes upward in a geyser of superheated water and robot bits. Apparently, Deeze grabbed a grenade randomly and threw a plasma grenade, damn near vaporized the drone. After the fight is over, Jax goes to see if he can salvage the drones. The player had seen Nutz's drone and wanted to build his own. He ends up getting a lot of pieces and puts them into the grenade box. He then decides to go down the ladder shaft and have a look. While he is descending, Monty spots a second hallway and decides to go have a look at what's on the other end. Deeze, Lilly, and Chocolate all rearm themselves and continue looking around the first room. Monty finds himself going uphill and almost to the surface when the hall opens into a rather oddly shaped room. The walls are clearly part of debris from the wreckage. The floor is now completely turned to soil, and there is a strange burring sound coming from his right. He looks and finds that there is a power generator up here that seems to be supporting the base with electricity. There is also another lizard soldier up here. Monty pulls the luck of the dice move and ends up rolling a critical to sneak attack the guy by shooting him in the back of the head. Brain and gore go everywhere as this guy's head just explodes. Monty then decides to turn the generator off and kill the electric supply. He then gets a very angry call from Jax, who is halfway down the ladder and is now completely in darkness. He turns it back on and turns to come back to the group when he is jumped by a rat folk. Now, this rat was not right in the head, kept talking to itself and another personality it had, and was generally being creepy as hell. Monty decides to kill that one too, but when the rat dies, his entire body explodes in this blackish gray muck, and that ends up covering Monty. When he comes back to the group, he makes a joke about how he is covered in the plague. The stuff smells worse than if he had been sprayed by a skunk. Meanwhile, Jax is in the shaft and eventually finds the bottom. Not much down here except for a half-collapsed tunnel running off to the side and the scorch marks from the grenade. However, Jax rolls for perception and gets rather high. The DM explains how, as Jax is looking down this half-flooded tunnel, he spots a pink light coming from under some debris. Jax makes his way to it and has to do a strength check to pull up some wood planks, which he succeeds. Out pops this squishy, almost gelatinous sphere that has a soft pink glow behind it. Not knowing what it is, he stuffs it into a storage pocket and heads back up. Turns out this thing is a sticky plasma grenade that the Sadao soldiers used to use. He turns around and heads on out of the tunnel and then back up to the first room. To get a better description of this, if any of you have played the game Subnautica, it's that little pink gelatin jellyfish thing that sticks to everything. While Jax and Monty are exploring, the rest of the group is gathering together all the tools and extra parts that they can and cramming them into a storage box that they plan on taking with us. Basically, if we could salvage anything that is not nailed down, we will. Once everyone is back together, Jax spots Monty, who is covered in this black goo stuff that stinks to high heaven. Everyone asks what happened to him, and I swear the player's response was, "Oh, it's fine, I'm just covered in the plague." Monty then realizes, uh-oh, I just said that to the giant murder robot whose main goal is to protect Lilly. Jax immediately threatens his life and orders him to stay well away from the rest of the organic group. Monty will be stuck by Jax from this point on, and if he infects Lilly, he will be killed on the spot. Thankfully, Monty does not try to go near her the rest of the dungeon. So we continue into the next room. The second room looks to be an old computer core room. Several half-destroyed computer servers stand with dust covering most of their surface. Jack tries to hack into one, but the programming on it is so old that he cannot get anything useful off the drives. There is a second maintenance pit in this room, but looking down the shaft reveals that it only goes down about a foot or two before debris blocks all access any farther down. Right as they are about to leave this room, two drones come through the door to their left. If it was possible, these two drones would have a shocked look on their face. Party rolls for vigilance, and most succeed. Those that do get to act in a surprise round. Lilly swings her hammer and knocks one out of the air. Jax finishes that one off by slamming his scythe into it, shattering it. The second one is torn to shreds from the combined shots of Deeze and Chocolate. Fastest battle we've ever had. After that, Monty gathers the scraps and takes them back to the grenade box with the other pieces. We then proceed to stealth into the next room. As we creep in, we hear about 3 people quietly talking back and forth. One of them says how they hate that they are being mistreated and can't wait for the invasion to begin. We all sneak in, and what we see is 3 large glass tubes in the center of a walkway filled with a dark greenish semi-transparent liquid, 2 large floor openings like the ladder shafts in the other room, 6 large computer desks, 2 hallways near the back where there are 7 doors that lead into 4 different offices in the engineering area, as well as a storage area, 4 lizard troopers, 2 more drones, and a very large hulking Komodo dragon that does not look quite right. Half of his face seems to droop like he had a stroke. His scales seem to be covered in a grayish goop that looks as if it had been spread thinly over his frame. On his right hand is a very large mechanical glove. One of our players guessed the weapon right away as the Doom Fist from Overwatch. Before they can spot us, we spread out and try to get into a good semi-ambush formation. Jax and Chocolate sneak up behind one of the glass tubes. Monty and Farah go to the far right side and get behind a computer desk. Lilly and Deeze both get behind a different desk on the left side. Before we spread out, Jax had told the group to go on his green light, referring to his multicolored lights that glow all around his body. He kept them at red until everyone was in position, then flashed the red 3 times before going to green. As the group pops up from their cover and opens fire. The lizards and the Komodo dragon all fail at a vigilance check, and we get to take a surprise round. Round 1. Jax and Chocolate lean out from behind the tube and shoot at the lizards, both hitting their mark and doing quite a bit of damage, but not enough to kill them. Deeze pops up and manages to kill the one Chocolate fired at. Lilly, using her grenade launcher, puts a frag grenade right into the middle of the group. Monty and Farah pop up and shoot at the other lizard on the right side that Jax did not shoot at. Their attack hit, but doesn't do enough damage to kill it. Grenade goes off and does some damage to all the enemy combatants. However, the DM has us do a vigilance check, and one of us spots a blue energy glow coming from the Komodo dragon as the grenade goes off. They immediately identify it as a personal shield unit that absorbs the damage from the grenade. Round 2. Having broken their stealth, the group proceed to open fire again on all the same targets. The lizard that Farah and Monty had hit leaps for the open doorway of an office on our right side and flies through right as the rounds that were targeting him slam into the door frame. The lizard Jax was shooting at ducks behind a desk and starts blindly shooting over the top of the desk, not really hitting anyone. The 2 lizards on the left side kneel down and shoot at Deeze and Lilly. They have a few close hits, but nothing actually hits them. Now, the Komodo dragon bolts straight forward and gets behind the tube closest to him. He pulls out a plasma rifle and starts blind firing around the tube. Round 3. Deeze manages to wound one of the lizards in the shoulder. It falls back on the ground and hides behind a desk. Lilly launches another frag grenade into the center of the room. It goes off and does damage to all but the lizard in the office. This time, the Komodo dragon does take some damage. The lizard still shooting at Deeze, and the one behind the desk, blind shooting at Jax, takes some damage as well. However, the one that Deeze had hit in the shoulder took the full blast of the grenade and died from the concussion and shrapnel. Jax and Chocolate both continue to shoot, but each are hit by a lizard soldier. Monty decides to make a bolt for an office door close to him. It leads into the same office that the lizard jumped into. Farah manages to hit the hand of the lizard, blind shooting, making it drop its gun. Round 4. Jax breaks from cover to try and bull rush the enemy. He pulls out a frag grenade and throws it while running. It goes off, off course from his aiming, bouncing off a desk and rolling back towards him. It explodes next to the Komodo dragon, and both Jax and the Komodo take damage from the blast that throws Jax back and the Komodo dragon to the left. Shucklet uses this opportunity to shoot the Komodo with a shotgun. Shucklet rolls a critical and ends up hitting the Komodo so hard in the chest he goes from flying to the left to flying further back. Deeze manages to hit one of the lizard soldiers, but he gets hit as well. Fortunately, the lizard dies. Monty gets inside of the office and takes a couple of shots at the lizard that jumped in here. Farah lays on the ground and shoots the lizard hiding behind the desk's feet, causing it to fall over. Round 5. Jax hits the floor and has to use a standard action to get up. Shucklet breaks from cover and tries to hit the Komodo again, and succeeds. This time, the Komodo shields take the impact and not him. He uses this time to get to his feet. Lilly fires another grenade into the room, and it violently tears the third lizard to pieces as it detonates right next to him. The lizard in the office takes a shot at Monty that hits, but doesn't do too much damage. Monty fires back, but misses the shot. Round 6. Shucklet decides to go head-to-head with the Komodo dragon. It does not go well for him. The Komodo reaches back with the Doom Fist and throws his entire weight into the punch. Shucklet has just enough of a reflex to block the punch, but the impact is still strong enough to cause both him and the Komodo to stumble back. Shucklet damn near broke his arm deflecting that hit. Jax, now back on his feet, rushes back into the combat. While sprinting, he changes the assault rifle to scythe mode and uses its handle to pole vault over the desk that the lizard was at, lands in the blood and gore, and damn near falls on his face as his feet slip out from underneath him. Farah uses this opportunity to get up and run for the office Monty is in. Round 7. Lilly shoots another grenade into the middle of the room, aiming behind the Komodo. She rolls a critical, so the force from the explosion throws him forward. He lands and skids right into the maintenance ladder shaft. As he falls down the shaft, there is a few loudly audible slams as he hits the ladder on the way down. Shucklet pulls out a plasma grenade and drops it down after him. Shucklet then spends a luck point to save the Doomfist. So, as the grenade goes off, the Doomfist flies out of the shaft with a hand still inside and lands on the floor next to Shucklet. Jax looks around and can only find one living target, so he bolts for the office. Monty and Farah both open fire and tear the lizard apart with gunfire right as Jax reaches the door. If you've been paying attention, Jax is supposed to be this non-stop killing machine, but has yet to kill a single person. Anyways, with the last lizard dead, the group decide to loot the bodies. Shucklet takes the Doomfist and puts it away for use later on. Jax climbs down the second maintenance shaft, while Shucklet goes down the one that the Komodo dragon fell down, hoping to get the shield unit as well. Shucklet can't recover the shield as it and everything else the Komodo had was practically turned to dust from the grenade. Jax, however, finds a small tunnel and goes exploring. It stops after about 15 or 20 feet. Near the floor, he finds a child's toy sitting on a half-broken box. He takes it and heads back up. Turns out the child's toy is a doll of a soldier in green armor. It's Doom Guy. He goes back up as the group is getting done looting the bodies. As the group is looting the bodies, Monty has gone around and taken DNA samples from all of them. He even got some samples from the hand that was inside the Doomfist. They explore the other offices and the engineering room and find a few extra items of interest. Someone discovers another door that opens onto a hallway that leads off to another room. Eventually, the group decide to follow this hallway. When they get close to the end, they can hear a couple more people inside. Jax and Shucklet decide to take the lead, and they bolt out shooting at whoever they see. There are 3 people in the room, 2 lizard soldiers and a female giraffe in a large, dark cloak. They raise their weapons and fire. Jax manages to kill one of the lizards right away. Chocolate shoots for the woman, but misses. We spread out from the door, and Deeze manages to get a shot off, and kills the other lizard. The female backs off to the back of the room, shooting the entire time. The group spread out into the room, all taking shots at her, but none of them seem to be hitting her. There are a few flashes of energy, as if she had a energy shield up, like the one the Komodo dragon had, so everyone starts getting excited. She begins to taunt us, saying how we will never survive this, that she has rigged the place to explode, and she will take us out if it looks like she is going to lose. How pathetic we are. You know, the normal evil villain thing. Eventually, after several rounds, the DM makes us all do a vigilance check, and those who succeed see that the laser blasts are not coming from her pistol, but from below her. Lilly makes a good shot and hits the point that the laser is coming out from. That ends combat as the female keeps firing, but nothing happens. She realizes and starts to laugh at us. Turns out the female is a hologram that was being projected from a spider drone on the ground. As she was shooting the pistol, it was actually shooting for her. She brags about how, now that the group has figured this out, that she will just activate the bombs and blow the hell out of the wreckage. Fortunate for us, her hologram is cut off as something else takes over the broadcast, as well as all the electronic systems in the area. Jax drops his gun as something hacks its way through his Wi-Fi receiver and takes control of his body. He powers down, except for his vocal speakers. The datapad that Monty has in his pocket, as well as Jax, begins to make a white noise sound. Monty pulls out the datapad, and it shows TV static. He begins to question it when the static from both the datapad and Jax stop. Then, on the datapad, the face of Andros himself appears. He begins to talk, and as he does, his voice comes out of Jax and the datapad. For far too long, Venom has slumbered. The great epoch which we awaited has now begun. Venom awakes. Under the blue skies of socialist resolve, you have suffered. The strong bleed for the masses and suffer under the oppression of weakness. They pay in blood for those who refuse to work, those who take our livelihood and give nothing back. We as a society used to be strong, the weak culled, ground, and hardened by the gears of capitalism and survival. We rose above the animals, we've conquered our fears, and the weak bled for us. We, the strong, rose up to defeat the visitors who invaded our space and drove the Sadao back to the hell pits from whence they spawned. That was our legacy. We showed the universe our superiority. But now I weep, for those days are lost. We no longer embrace strength and courage. We ensure survival for all at the expense of our souls. If you stand behind me in loyalty and obedience, no power in this verse will destroy this movement. It will continue its vicious course, rolling over the bones of the weak. If you preserve the same discipline, the same obedience, the same comradeship, and the same unbound loyalty, then nothing will ever extinguish this movement. This is the request I make for you, for myself, and in the names of the strong who are no longer among us. I ask that you now slay the weak, throw their children from the ramparts, strike down the righteous and those who would oppress your natural instincts. Unleash my friends, burn and rape, and unleash upon the world, and reveal in the flames of absolution. On the datapad, the visual switches to a camera on the ground in a city. A large disc-like ship descends through the clouds. Once it is hovering over one of the city's many skyscrapers, doors on the lower part open and hundreds of long dart-like drones fly out. immediately shooting at civilians, buildings, and vehicles. The camera switches to a different city and shows the same thing happening. Then it switches to a camera on board a ship. This one is being shot by Cornarian fighters, but the fighters are being shot down left and right. It switches again to a ship in orbit. This one launches a missile of some kind at the planet, but when it explodes, all it does is send out a strong EMP that knocks out a lot of military satellites and communication satellites. At that point, the feed stops. The datapad goes blank, reboots, and goes back to the main menu. Jax makes some weird sounds before falling straight over. He then begins to make sounds like his system is booting up too. Then, to everyone's relief, his speakers play the opening sound to Windows, right before he speaks up. "Why am I on the ground?" he asks. They explain to him what they saw and what happened to him. Farah announces that those fighters that were being shot down was probably Shears and the cadets trying to fight, and that they had best get back to the Academy City quickly. Monty radios to the two soldiers who we left at the shuttle to bring the ship closer, and that we need to get out quickly. They explain to him that they don't have much pilot training, but will do their best. Farah immediately berates him for ordering people around without thinking or getting a plan together. The group then runs all the way back through the wreckage, gathering the loot as they leave. Jack pulls out a set of straps from a pocket and puts it on like a harness. It's what he calls a halfling holder. Usually while out on missions, he will put Lilly into this holder and sprint as fast as he can to get to a destination quicker without tiring Lilly or leaving her behind. This allows him to move while she fires her weapon. This time, he uses it to attach the box of grenades. He did it so that they can all keep running without getting tired. Anyways, they make it outside just in time to see their shuttle taking off from a distance. As it starts to move forward at them, it begins to swing back and forth and spin. The soldiers clearly are not pilots and are very quickly losing control. Farah radios to them and tries to guide them back to the ground. It kind of works, but as they start to lower the ship, it slams into the top of a tree, spins halfway around in a counterclockwise spin, and then slams into the ground hard. If the landing gear was still down, it would be destroyed at this point. The group starts to head to the shuttle, but Jack stops Monty and drags him off to the side to grab his prisoner. They get to the area where the handcuffed lizard was supposed to be, and he is gone. Jax is rather irritated because he had said that if the guy tries to escape, Jax would track him down and kill him. So, he begins to track. After about 30 yards, Jax finds him, or what's left of him. Apparently, as he tried to escape, the lizard was snatched up and eaten by a large carnivine. Yes, our DM brought Pokemon into this game as animals. After finding what was left of the lizard, Jax turns his attention to his next priority, taking care of the plague-covered Monty. So Jax turns around and drags Monty to the closest water source he can find. Jax then pulls out some spare cloth and soap from his bag and then literally forcibly scrubs the mole from head to toe. Monty's pants and shirt could not be scrubbed clean, so Jax literally cuts them off the mole and throws them to the side. His lab coat does come clean, so Jax throws that back onto Monty, who is now in nothing but his boots and underwear and now his lab coat. Then Jax heads back to the shuttle, telling Monty to leave the clothing behind as he will not be permitted on the shuttle with them. This was a way to kind of tell the player to think before acting, otherwise it does have consequences, and shows that Jax takes everything literally. As they're heading back to the ship, a fighter drone, one of the 4-foot kinds, that they brought with them, buzzes the ship at fast speeds before visibly slowing to turn around. Now, this is one of the sphere-type ones, and not one of the dart ones that the group saw being released from the disk ship. Farah tries to contact it from the shuttle, but but the link is not working. As it gets closer to the shuttle, its weapons doors pop open, and it begins firing a burst of laser bolts at the shuttle. The two soldiers get into the shuttle's side guns, but cannot start shooting because it is above their line of sight. Farah and Deeze take the pilot and co-pilot seats. Chocolate and Lilly both post up outside and start to shoot back at the drone. All the while, Jax and Monty are bolting for the shuttle, shooting while they are running. It makes its first pass and hits the top of the ship, not really hurting anything. It then flies off and turns around to make another attack run. By this time, Jax and Monty have gotten to the shuttle and are on board. Monty goes to the drone control station and starts trying to hack into the drone. As it begins to fire, Jax, Chocolate, and Lilly all open fire. Jax's round hits but bounces off. Lily's grenade launcher puts a large dent into the top of the drone, and Chocolate's shotgun puts small holes all over its armor, but it's still coming. It fires another salvo and damn near hits Lilly. Jax makes a reflex save and pulls her behind him, taking the damage she would have gotten. The drone passes overhead and goes off to turn around. At this point, Farah and Deeze manage to get the shuttle's engines back on and immediately take off. The shuttle begins to hover just above the tree lines, and the two side turrets begin to fire on the drone. It hovers higher and starts its attack run again. This time it goes high enough that the side turrets or the occupants can't even fire on it. On a side note, I know some of you are confused. Earlier in the video I had said that this was an unarmed shuttle. What that was supposed to mean was that the shuttle does not have the optional missile pods or the command deck nose gun or the top turret, and the 6 fighter-sized drone docking ports are empty. This shuttle has only 2 side turrets, which come on all the shuttles. Anyways, as it comes in for its third pass, a couple laser blasts shoot through the skin on the shuttle's roof, piercing through and stopping on the deck plates. Fortunately, they didn't hit any systems. However, the port turret, or left side for those who don't know nautical direction, opens fire as the drone veers off to that side and into its line of fire. Farah and Deeze guide the ship off to the right or starboard side and attempt to give everyone else a shot at it by exposing their open troop ramp. However, as they turn the ship, the drone flips back and begins to change its position to match that of the ship's spin. It gets closer and fires its guns at the port side turret, hitting the gun and causing them to malfunction. A quick save roll gets the soldier out seconds before the port side turret erupts in fire. The drone then quickly gets alongside the shuttle and starts to shoot at the interior. Farah and Deeze force the shuttle to accelerate in hopes of leaving the drone behind, but it's no use. The drone keeps up with them and begins to target the shuttle's G-diffuser generator. It hits it a couple times and severely damages it. At this point, Jax leans out of the back of the shuttle and starts to shoot at the drone. Chocolate has moved up the side of the shuttle and pulled a switch, which jettisoned the port side turret. He did this so he can get a good shot at the drone. The turret falls off and Chocolate immediately opens fire on the drone. Problem is, it's flying just below the shuttle's wing, so he has to be careful. Thankfully, his shot is precise, and he hits the drone full on, knocking it back from the ship a bit. Farah and Deeze use this little bit of movement to slam the shuttle into high gear. This temporarily leaves the drone behind them, but it quickly catches back up to the shuttle's rear end. At this time, Jax uses a luck point to leap from the shuttle out and onto the drone, using the scythe blade to slam into the drone and anchor his blade. He then crawls on top of the drone and pulls out a roll of duct tape. While this is going on, the drone is now shooting into the crew cabin, and he's targeting Lilly and Chocolate. Once the duct tape is in Jax's hand, he manages to tape the box of grenades to the drone. He then reaches in and pulls 2 pins out from grenades, puts them back in, secures the box, pulls his scythe out, and does his best backflip off the drone, giving it the middle finger the entire time. Problem is, he's about 40 feet off the ground, and he hits the ground hard. When he lands, he takes quite a bit of fall damage, and the support structure of his left leg ends up getting a stress crack. Unfortunately, it takes him down to about 60% fighting capability. If he wants to return back to 100%, he's going to have to see a mechanic to get his leg welded back together. As he looks up at the drone and the shuttle, he sees that the drone is still shooting into the cabin. Chocolate gets grazed and hurt by the fire. Either this drone negated the grenades or they were duds, because they're not going off. The drone launches another salvo and nails one of the power cores for the ship. Thankfully, it does not explode. However, right as the drone goes to target the next power core, the sky turns pure white and so bright that even Jax has to turn away. There is a large explosion and the shuttle gets rocked violently. Farah and Deeze have to make some very hard piloting checks to keep it in the air, and they succeed. Now, we ended up calculating this out later, but there was equivalent of about 32 grenades in that box, and each grenade does a minimum of 5d6 points of damage, and there was several various types in there, so some did a hell of a lot more than 5d6. Plus, there was a bunch of EMP and electric ones. So, this drone ended up taking something like 300 points of damage in one explosion, as well as a crap ton of EMP damage. The thing was vaporized. There was nothing left of it. Chocolate reports that the drone is dead and that they need to turn around. Farah is all like, screw that, we need to get back to base, and until he explains why the drone blew up. At this point, they have already flown about 5 miles away from where Jax had landed, so he gets up and starts jogging as best as he can in the direction the group went, but he can't go fast due to the broken leg. A couple minutes later, the shuttle lands by him. Farah, Monty, and Deeze all look at the shuttle and make any repairs that they can, which isn't much. Lilly tends to Jax, a little bit of duct tape here, a hammer hit there, and she gets him from 65 combat effectiveness up to about 90. They will need a welder to get that leg completely fixed, so until then he will have a slight limp. Farah gathers everyone together and explains that the drone did some serious damage to the G-diffuser generator. It's working now, but it can fail at any time. With one of the power cores destroyed, they can no longer get back to Academy City. It has a range now of maybe 50 kilometers, and Academy City is about 500 kilometers to the north. They do have 2 options for them. First is to lighten the ship as much as possible and to make the attempt to get to a city, the closest being 250 kilometers to the east, or go to an old fishing village to the west, which is about 75 kilometers away. There may or may not be anybody there because of the attacks, but they can at least try. The group decided to try for the fishing village. At least it's closer and they may be able to call for help since the radio on the shuttle got damaged as well. The fishing village is called Skarsgård, and it lies at the farthest inside point of a large bay on the ocean. Hopefully the group can get some transport there. So the group remove the second turret and a lot of the excess gear that they won't need, even the heavy loot that they got from the shipyard. Fix up what they can and get going once again. Knowing that the shuttle can fall out of the sky at any moment, Farah and Deeze fly as close to the ground as possible without putting too much strain on the G-diffuser. Along the way there, the shuttle gets surrounded with the 7 other drones that were supposed to be patrolling the memorial. One of them gets close to the side of the shuttle and looks inside. Jax tries to contact it with his Wi-Fi receiver and he connects. The drone backs off for a second before it responds to him. "You have killed one of our brothers, you pile of scrap. We will get you for this." With that, the drone terminates the connection and pulls away from the shuttle. As it does, all 7 form up behind the shuttle in a flying V pattern that ducks usually fly in. They open their weapons ports and then take a hard left, turn, and go flying off into a different direction. To this day, we have no idea why they turned on us or why they didn't take us out. Either way, that's where we ended this session, and I must end this video as it is getting rather long. In the next video, the group manages to secure some transport and find a bunch of unexpected friends. But until then, have a great day, and remember, gamers don't just choose one life, we choose many.